In this video, I'm betting on sports. Commercial break, just 1 second. In this video, I'm betting on sports. Most of what I know about sports betting, I learned from Adam Sandler.
This is me. This is how I win.
So it's safe to say I don't know much, but one thing I noticed recently is a lot of stock traders like to bet on sports over the weekend just to get their fix. A few weeks ago on Twitter, I saw someone who bet a few $100s on a parlay bet of NFL games and turned that few hundred into about $80,000. So suffice to say, that kind of piqued my interest. Now, the only sport I kind of pay attention to is pro football, so I'll probably keep my betting in that realm. So as I mentioned, I know very little about sports betting. I tried maybe a handful of times like 5 or 6 years ago and just about broke even, but let's go over some basic concepts just so that we're all on the same page. First, let's talk about the odds, in this case, American odds. The odds for a favorite will have a minus sign in front of the amount you need to bet to win $100. So you'll often see minus 110 next to a slight favorite. This means if you bet $110, you'd win $100. If a team is an underdog, you'll see a plus sign next to the amount you would win if you bet $100. So obviously, if a team is a heavy underdog, you should get a higher payout if you pick them to win and they actually pull it off. Make sense? Cool. Next, you have the point spread, which is a bet on the margin of victory. So here in week 8 of the NFL with the Dolphins and the Bills are a heavy favorite with the point spread at minus 14, which essentially means the Bills are expected to beat the Dolphins by at least 14 points. So if you bet on the spread for the Bills, you need them to win by at least 15 points in order to get your payout. And we can see they covered their spread and won by exactly 15 points. So that would have been a winning bet. Now on the other side of the coin, if you chose the underdog Dolphins, you'd need them to lose by 13 points or fewer or win the game outright for you to win that spread bet. Now if the Bills win by exactly 14 points, it's called a push and the bettor gets their money back. The money line is probably the simplest way to bet on a favorite or underdog. This is just a bet based solely on which team will win the game outright. Just like I mentioned in the odds section, you take more risk by betting on a favorite since they are expected to win. Betting on an underdog will usually give you a much greater return if they win because, well, they're expected to lose. Next, let's talk about the total over-under. The odds makers will set a total number of points scored in a game by both teams combined. You can then bet whether or not the game will go over or under that total amount. That's fairly straightforward, so let's move on to parlays. Parlay bet is where you link multiple bets together to create a bigger payout. This is how that one guy on Twitter took a couple $100s and took it to $80,000 in one day. So it can be a good way to increase the win amount without increasing your bet amount. Just watch as I add amounts to this parlay and see how every wager can compound the total payout to be enormous. But if just one leg of your parlay fails, then the entire bet is a loss. All right, so that's my brief summary covering what little I know about betting on sports. As always, treat this video and videos like this purely as entertainment. Do a deeper dive for yourself to make sure you have a firm grasp on everything before you put real money on the line. And remember, this is straight up gambling, so treat that as entertainment as well. Assume you will lose 100% of the funds you wager, and if you have an addictive personality, this may not be a good idea. Let's check in with Adam. I deposited $200 into my sportsbook account. My initial thought is to place a $100 bet on college football for Saturday, and then one more $100 bet for pro football on Sunday. Okay, I know absolutely nothing about college football. Nothing. So probably not a great idea to put money on it, but here we go. While browsing through Twitter, I came across this 11-game parlay bet from a stock trader I follow named Mans. If everything hits, $100 would turn into $236,000. So clearly it's a long shot. He also asked his followers what games might cause his parlay to fail. So instead of blindly following this wager 100%, I looked through those comments to gauge sentiment on what people thought and then made a few adjustments of my own. And then semi-blindly, I placed the wager. I took North Carolina over Wake Forest, Wisconsin over Rutgers, and Purdue over Michigan State. The biggest underdog Mans picked was Illinois at 520. Remember, this means if you bet $100 on Illinois and they win, it would pay out $520. Taking into account my adjustments, if my 11-game parlay hits, my $100 would pay out $72,000. Pretty interesting. For my second bet, I did some digging around on Reddit, looking for someone reputable to follow into a few NFL bets. I came across George Kent, or Bambino Bets, and found 3 plays he recommended for Sunday. Now, one thing to note is the odds are fluid. They will fluctuate over time leading up to a game as new information comes out or as more bets are placed. So I ended up placing these bets a couple days after he posted, so if you wonder why the odds may be a little different, that's why. Also, he does not recommend parlaying these bets, just doing individual wagers, but since I'm only using a little bit of money, I do want to make it a little bit more interesting by parlaying it, so I'll only blame myself if one leg of this trade fails. And I was thinking, since I am parlaying this, I want to do one more wager as well in case this one fails, so I'm just going to wager 50 on this one to win about 300. For my third bet, I looked at a few different sports betting websites where they have their algorithms and AI and simulations and so on and so forth, and I found one more free play. I ended up on dimers.com, and again, they had 3 picks, choosing the favorite for 2 and the slight underdog, the Cleveland Browns, for the other one. I am loading them up as a parlay because it's just way more fun that way. $50 here to win $439. I checked in Saturday around midday, and the heavy underdog Illinois did end up beating Minnesota, which was great, and every other game seemed to just be going my way. In fact, every single game went my way. But then there was Clemson and Louisville. Clemson took the lead in the last few minutes of the game and scored again to shut down the Cardinals, ruining my parlay. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. Okay, so I just checked in on my parlay. Purdue just won, and now I can cash out for $13,300. So I can take that crazy payout now, or wait and see how the 3 games play out, and if all those teams win, then I would win $72,000. So it's $72,000 or $13,000. What would you do? So I had a little dilemma on my hands, but of course I had to go ahead and cash out, take the huge win, and I am obviously glad that I did so. This had to be the biggest dose of beginner's luck that I've ever experienced.
You having a good time?
Yes.
Again, I can't believe how that worked out and realized it had to be pretty wild probability-wise. So shout out to Mans on Twitter and those that commented their thoughts. I thank you. But that's not all. I still have 2 more bets that I need to check in on. So this is my bet from Twitter's Bambino Bets. The Browns smoked the Bengals, so that was a loss, ruining that parlay. But if I had done individual bets like he recommended, would I have still come out ahead? Well, the Saints also lost by 2, and the Packers only scored 7 points, so all 3 of those plays were losers. For my final wager, both the Cardinals and Browns won, and again, I had a decision to make. Either cash out before the final game for about $220, or let it ride into the final game. I think if I didn't have such a massive win yesterday, I would have definitely cashed out because it is a great return on my $50, but for the sake of this video and because I'm already sitting pretty, I decided to let it ride. I needed the Rams to win by at least 8 points, and they sucked big time and lost the game. Bummer. So thanks to that NCAA parlay, I was able to turn my $200 deposit into $12,936 for a 6,368% return on my money just over 1 weekend. Obviously, this kind of result is very atypical. I still have a hard time believing it myself. I think I'll withdraw $12,000 of it and then just play around with the remaining $900 or so. And yes, I will pay taxes on these gains just like I do all my other realized gains, so yeah. But if you do have an upcoming play you want me to place a wager on with some of my remaining funds, leave me a comment below and let me know. And again, I don't really know much about betting on sports.
I said I was a fan of Jerome Bettis, whatever the hell that is.
But if you're interested in doing some mild gambling, make sure you do so with money you can afford to lose. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.